All right, back with Protective Future, What's on the Horizon. I am talking today with my good friend, my best bud in the whole wide world, who I love being on stage with and talking, Sandra Stibbards, who everybody knows. Sandra, by the way, I will preface this. Everybody should know that Sandra doesn't have her picture taken. Sandra doesn't appear in video form to protect your identity and to protect what you do, because you are probably the preeminent expert, I will say, in online and cyber investigations. I've been to your classes, and she has a number of them. They will be linked below. And I've followed you for a long, long time, and we've even presented together a couple of times now, most recently at ASIS International's GSX. And we had a good conversation, didn't we? I'd like to think. We had a good turnout, too.
We had a great group, and we were really fortunate because there was so much interest in corporate due diligence. And being at a security conference, we're really trying to remind people that the investigations piece of it is the starting point for security. So we were really lucky to have the interest, and I think a lot of people enjoyed us. Of course, we are entertaining just together.
Yeah, we have kind of an act that we do.
We do.
We
really do.
But it is fun. And so, Sandra, as you know, with this what we try to talk about on the show or on this piece is our industry, and I'm trying to understand where our industry is going. And and by industry, I mean the investigations industry, and it could be in corporate security, private investigations, things like that. And the cool thing about your background is that you did start off as kind of a traditional gumshoe, and you were out there hustling like a traditional private investigator. But what was the point at which you thought, there's something to this online stuff? I need to be paying attention to social media. I need to pay attention to the online world, and that needs to be a focus of my practice.
I was really fortunate, actually, to have a good friend of mine. His name is Kevin Ripa. He's a computer forensics expert who actually was doing a class on computer configuration and security. He had written a book. It was the beginning of the 2000s, and I was already utilizing the internet, obviously, at that point, but we didn't have the online accesses that we normally do now. I mean, now it's just easy breezy, which is the next topic of how you have to be careful about the easy breezy. But it was because of him that I really started to understand what was available to me out there. And he really taught me how, Sandra, if you have a question on what you want and what you're trying to find, just do it yourself. And he taught me how to be very secure online, taught me how to utilize my computer the right way and make sure all the security was in place. And from there, he basically opened my mind on understanding that there's a lot of things I can do online. I started with certain groups and databases that basically we're doing the digging of public records. But then all of a sudden, once he opened my eyes, it just kind of snowballed from there. And I got really lucky to be understanding, because I've been doing this since 92. I mean, I've been an investigator since 92, but I've been doing the online things, basic accesses in the late 90s or mid to late 90s. But then this just snowballed, and it's been such a great ride because it's an amazing tool for my financial fraud investigations and everything else I do.
Great point. Financial fraud is a lot of people don't think of the online world with financial fraud. How do you see the career field or what we do as an investigator or as investigators, especially online or OSINT investigators? How do you see that evolving? We're talking about metaverse, and we're talking about omniverse, and all these different applications, and the way kind of Web 3.0, I guess we're on to now. But how do you see investigators kind of evolving to meet the future challenges?
It's interesting you bring that up, because I've had two different perspectives over the years and watching it grow right now, because the people that I have been fortunate enough to train on these topics have been twofold. You have people that are in the corporate industry that were never part of law enforcement or military. And then I have these other people that are going on to a second career and trying to become investigators. So you have two different perspectives. You have the people in the corporate world that were always there. They kind of have an insight into some of this already. And so they're fortunate enough to understand they have to get trained and have to understand the security issues, the breach issues, and how to protect themselves, and that it's getting worse as time goes by because the criminals are getting more savvy. When you have the people from the law enforcement or military side who are going into a second career and just becoming investigators, right, whether it's in the corporate world or on their own, they've had that fortunate capability of using government databases, and everything was already secure for them. So now you're kind of starting at the baby step point and really trying to teach them from the beginning. So you have two perspectives. Either angle, you're going to have to get the education, because if you don't keep up with the protections and everything that you can do to secure yourself online and protecting yourself in your company's information, which is the human part, it could snowball out of control and really destroy your businesses. So I right now see the future as being continually updating everything, continually educating yourself on the human intelligence side and the cyber intelligence side. I hope that makes sense, because it's just getting more and more, it's snowballing out of control. And as long as people stay on top of it, that's going to be the way to handle the future.
Yeah. Interesting. The protecting yourself online, I think, especially as an investigator, is really important, because we at times go into some of the deepest and darkest corners of the internet. What do you say to people who, you and I think we've talked about this in the past, but we have clients who will come to us about doing some type of due diligence for them, and they'll say, "Oh, can't you just go into the dark web or the deep web and go find out all this information about me, or about my target or whatever it is?" And what do you say when people say that?
It's a really good point, because you're right. Some of them just think you just pop online and it's all right there. And I usually try to explain to them, here's the deal. You have somebody, especially with the corporate due diligence, we're starting with all the information, aren't we? They've given us their CV. We can look at all of that and everything looks fine and dandy and it's perfect and everything matches. But there's the big but, and it's, what is it they don't know about them? And if you're looking in the dark web, you and I both know, and people listening, a lot of you are already going to know this, you're not going to be finding them under their real information. So what we're having to do is then dig into what we have about them already to see if there's an underlying activity, identity, other character that they're utilizing, and then follow that information. It may not be any big deal. It may just be their personal world where they're separating from their business world, but it may also be that personal world where they may be into nefarious activities that the last thing you want is that popping up later on down the road when, you're doing a deal with another big corporation. You don't want this person to suddenly be outed 2 years from now. So I try to explain to clients that you're not going to want to do a tiny little look-see. Yeah. If you're going into some big merger or you're bringing in somebody huge that's going to be handling everything, we need to dig really deep. And you can't just do that by a database search and a skimming of the, these different tools. You have to have somebody that's a true investigator that knows how to look in weird places and thinks backwards. And you have to spend some money to prevent having to spend a lot of money later. So that's basically what I explain to them.
Yeah, doing it right up front the first time is so important. Like you've talked to so many clients who say, "Oh, well, I paid $25 online for that, the database check. I'm good. I understand what's going on." And it's like, nah, that doesn't work. How about social media investigations? What do you see? All these different social media types that are out there. How about the future of that? Will we be talking about TikTok in the next 5 years and collecting information from that to use in litigation and things like that?
I think you've hit the nail on the head on that, because that's a huge deal right now. And yeah, this is not going away. It's going to grow and grow and grow. TikTok is interesting because, we know it came out of China. And there was a period of time there that, for those of you that are listening, if you don't know, the worst thing you could have done was downloaded the app, but if you did, and I'm sorry you did. However, it's a very searchable tool, which is interesting because the purpose of it was to basically allow everybody access, and that way the Chinese and everybody else can see exactly what we're doing. And people bit And, it's it's a very searchable site right on a browser. You don't even have to be logged in. Do I think that TikTok's going to be around? I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's going to grow and grow and grow. We've watched these social media sites come and go, and there's a good reason. TikTok, people are addicted. They want those short little videos. Vines used to be one of those sites. It came and went. Somehow TikTok infested everybody. And yeah, I think that with the capabilities, and first of all, for searchable capabilities, it's wonderful. I hope it stays that way for us as investigators. When anything is an open source like that and it's public record, and I can just do a searchable site right in a browser, do a site search for something, and it comes up on my target, we absolutely can always use that in court. And I think you mentioned 5 years from now, I think we're going to have just as much going on then as we do now. It's probably going to have expanded, 500 times the size of what it is now. Some of the other platforms, I think LinkedIn is never going to go away. And I teach on how you can search that in a lot of different ways.
Great tool.
Facebook now being Meta, I think that was their intro saying we're just getting started. I really do. I do believe that. So, Twitter, same thing. The 3 biggies, now I think there's the 4 biggies. You threw it out there, TikTok. And there are some other platforms that are really trying to take off, like Getter, Gab, Substack, some of these other ones that are trying to take off. I don't know if they will or not. I don't see them growing fast. TikTok was kind of one of those phenomenons that kind of came and went boom. And you're just at the base, right?
Yeah. What about tools? What kind? You one of the things that you teach a lot about is kind of this suite of. Of course, there will, I think, always be free tools out there, but you have both paid and free tools that you teach about. How are those tools going to evolve, or will those tools evolve, or to meet kind of the needs of the investigator in the future? Are we going to be commoditizing investigations to where everybody can do it? You don't even need a license. Don't worry about it. Just, anybody can go out on the internet and look for these things, or will it still take some skill and know-how to use them?
I think that's a great question. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah, you're right. We have the paid tools that we have, such as EchoSec, Dark Owl, Scope Now. They're all really spectacular tools that I mean, utilizing them. What the great thing about them is they don't let just anybody have access to them. Mm-hmm. They are vetting all of their customers. I do think that all of the tools that we're using out there are going to evolve. I think the 3 that I just named and some of the other paid tools that are available, I do think they're evolving because I've watched them all evolve over time. I've watched how Rob Douglas with Scope Now took it from just a mass search that really wasn't a very useful tool to, for me, I call it the oh my gosh moment. It's like, wow, what he's done. So I can't even imagine what he's going to do next. I've seen the same thing with EchoSec when they first came out. I was like, yeah, it's okay, and then it was like, oh my gosh, what they've done and the capabilities of social media monitoring, they keep evolving. Then they added a dark net piece of it. Now they have a risk portal. They keep adding things to it. Dark Owl, they've been collecting information for so long, and the information that they grab usually disappears off the dark net. They know enough to hold on to those details to be searchable for us. So yeah, these paid tools, they're going to continue to evolve, and they're going to continue to stay with us. The free stuff, like you said, we have a lot of free tools, and I teach on a lot of them. I've also seen some of them really evolve, and then I've seen other ones that do the thing where, that phrase, they fix it till it's broken?
Yeah,
I've seen that too.
Yeah.
No, they fix it and they make it user friendly when it was so cool and user friendly before. I think the paid versions are the ones that are really going to stay. A couple of the free things out there that we do in my trainings will stay out there, but a lot of them come and go all the time. And you've seen that. I mean, in every class, I think I've gone through my whole presentation, and there's always somebody that goes, Sandra, that site's not up anymore, and yet it was up just last week. So that happens a lot, but that was a really good point. I think the really good paid ones that cost a pretty penny, they're not going anywhere, and they're going with the flow and learning as they go, especially with AI as well.
Totally. Talking about Dark Owl and how they're they're grabbing information when available, because in the dark web, if it's dependent on somebody's server on the other side of the world. So it's not like the internet that is backed up in multiple places. And I think that's really important to note is you've got to, if you want good data, you got to pay for it. You're going to have to pay for it. Yeah.
We don't want the general public to have access to that.
No.
There's a reason that it costs money. It costs them to collect, but then you just hit the nail on the head. We want to be able to be investigators without every Tom, Dick, and Harry getting access to the data that really means something.
Right. Right. Yeah. The $29.99 search that you do on the internet for criminal history is kind of ridiculous. Another thing about that, because we do see that a lot from our clients. They'll say, well, can't you just search it on this paid site that anybody can get access to? Do you and specifically about criminal records or criminal histories, not every community has access to records online today. But do you see that changing? Do you see more access to more records that traditionally were not online, and now the governments have figured out, if I charge people to look this information up, like Pacer or something, a federal court record search, do you think people will or the governments will be wanting to put more things online so that it can be accessed by appropriate people, of course? But
that's interesting, because what I've been seeing is they're kind of shutting us down. I don't know if you've noticed that, but
interesting. More privacy concerns.
Yeah, and I think it started a few years ago with the GDPR over in Europe, the UK and
CCPA
that area.
in California. Yep.
Yeah, here in California too, because I've seen the change in the records over however many years, and it's happened in Colorado and a couple of other places where they're actually truncating dates of birth now. So if we're trying to actually verify that this person has a criminal record, we can't verify it anymore. So
Great point.
Although I do think that a lot of them are monetizing it, I do think a lot of places, all these counties are learning that they can charge. I don't think Pacer's going to go away. The federal records site, I think, will always stay the same and available to us. But some of these other counties and the way that each state is locking things down, I'm almost starting to believe that they're going to limit what we can do over the next period of time. I really do think it's going to get more difficult, because I've seen it get more difficult just in the last few years. So I don't know. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, we've got ban the box laws in several states now, and I think you taught us about that in the last class in February. But where you've got states like California that we, traditionally have kind of gone overboard with not wanting to hire or to discriminate against somebody with a criminal history in employment, and so states are going, overcorrecting back the other way, and they're saying, no, we want you to consider. You can no longer consider their criminal history in employment, in certain types of employment, and I think it's I think it's just an overcorrection the other way. They're trying to remove information, which is not going to make anything safer, and it's definitely not going to help things. It's always interesting, but that's a good kind of segue to what can people do to kind of keep themselves safe online. I like you get calls from clients who say, hey, how can we remove my information from the internet? I was talking with somebody who lives in a very nice part of Scottsdale a couple of weeks ago, and I said, it took me one Google search to find your address just by searching your name, and it was the top or the second result on Google.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do you think about that? But what can people do in the future to be protecting themselves, or should they be thinking about how their information is going to be utilized in the future through data brokers and through, doxing and things like all these terrible things that activists do to expose people? Do you think that that's going to get worse or better, or and then what can you do to protect yourself?
I absolutely believe it's just going to continue to get worse, because our information is put out there by third-party marketers. They're buying it. They're buying it from wherever they can. So people can remove themselves from these sites. It's a step-by-step process. Each site has a different option. Sometimes you can just click on remove listing. Other times you have to go into the privacy section and provide the link and explain why you want to be removed. And the phrase that you use when you are requesting removal is privacy concerns. So keep that in mind. Each site that you go to, state that it's privacy concerns, and they 99% of the time will remove your information either immediately within 48 hours or 7 days or something like that. They'll email you back and let you know. There's sites that can help you remove yourself. I actually just got a verification from somebody that attended my most recent 2-day training. There was a site that I had found a while back called onerep.com. It's ONEREP as in Paul.com. And they actually do removal. And it's a very cheap site. It's a pay site. But I'd seen it a long time ago, but you know me well. You know that I don't trust any of these sites. So what happened was I had somebody attend a training recently, and he said he tested it out and it works great. So you could always pay them to help remove it, but you're going to need to vet yourself every couple of weeks. Throw yourself into Google,
Whack-a-mole,
throw yourself into Bing.
Yep.
First name last, last name first, find all the sites. It's not going to get any better, but a couple of things to keep yourself in knowing how to protect yourself. Make sure you're using a paid VPN. Virtual private network. They're out there. Paid versions are always the best. Make sure you're using a secure email. Proton Mail is fantastic and it's free.
Love Proton Mail. Yep.
I know, right? I love it too. You can use secure browsers like Firefox's new private window. That is another way to keep all the junk off of your system. Clean up your system with CCleaner and Malwarebytes. These little steps are going to help you in the big picture. Don't verify anything over the phone, and for goodness sake, don't click on anything in an email or in text message. No clicking ever, okay? If you do these basic things, and you're going to remember this one from class, know where you're going. When you type in that URL, when you're typing in, www.thedomainname.com, go back and look and make sure every letter is correct, because there are people out there that create thousands of domains to mirror it by one letter off, and they'll have perfect entry into your system if you type it in wrong and hit enter. So these are a lot of little things you can do to keep yourself safe. And remember, if you're getting phone calls, don't verify anything over the phone. Human intelligence is the biggest piece that can destroy everything for you. It's the human element. You're the human element. Protect yourself and take all these little precautions and you'll be fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's only going to get worse with artificial intelligence being able to mimic, we talk about deep fakes and being able to mimic people's voices or to mimic a video call. Is it your grandson who's calling you saying he needs help to bail out of jail, or is that the fraudster? Probably the fraudster, right? But the artificial intelligence and machine learning is going to be so good that with little bits of information, they'll be able to extrapolate and target you socially much easier. So I agree, being guarded is really, really good. It's really important.
Absolutely.
What's one thing that you one either website or tool that you can't live without as an OSINT investigator? What's the one
for free tools? The one I can't live without is TweetDeck. I can't live without TweetDeck. I love that site, and I highly recommend that you go and learn about it. It is awesome. And the other one I can't live without are the advanced searches in LinkedIn. So if you're using these two free tools, you can get a lot of information very easily and simply without having to pay for anything. So those are two of my favorite tools. I have a whole bag full of them, but maybe somebody would like to either hear me online. I've got an online course that we've got launched, and I have trainings coming up, and Scott and I are going to be doing some speaking together. So, come and hear both of us, come and hear me. I'd love to do anything to help anybody. And by the way, if anybody wants to reach out anybody wants to reach out, just email me, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
And everything will be linked down below, and I will put in links for your training classes because I think they're amazing. And there's way more than one, and there's way more than a couple of hours of training. There's days and days of training online that you could take, not in person, but you also have in-person classes. When's your next in-person class, by the way?
Well, actually, the next in-person class is next week. It's down in San Juan, Puerto Rico. I'm going to be doing a training for a bunch of international banks, but anybody can sign up if they want to. Just go to my opensourceintelligencetraining.org website and they can check it out. But I will be setting up a few of my 2-day open source intelligence trainings in the early spring. So you can look for those as well. And I'll make sure I keep you in the loop on that for sure, no matter what. Okay?
Please do. We'd love to host you in Phoenix, Arizona, for sure.
I appreciate it so much, Scott. And I'll come out anytime. I'll go anywhere, you guys.
Thank you, Sandra. And
Make
sure that if you're following this, share it with your partners, share it with your friends. We want to keep people safe and productive, and make sure you're commenting. Ask us questions in the comments section below. Sandra and I will both answer them. So thanks, Sandra, for being here.
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate it. See you soon.
Bye-bye.